Hey folks, how's it going today? We're going to get started on a little bit of a mini lecture and assignment today. And first, I want you to think about where we live. Point Arena, Wallala, Manchester, Annapolis, wherever between. How has the place where you live influenced who you've become? Please answer that in Edpuzzle. So today we're going to talk about geography, and geography is something that comes up from time to time in this class, but it's not like the sole focus, but it's a really important skill, a social studies skill that you're going to need to be able to progress through this class. So when we talk about geography, there's 5 themes, okay? There's location, there's place, there's movement, there's human environment, interaction, and there's region. Now, geography is the study of people and places, the people, the cultures, and the natural environment that exist. So everywhere has different types of geography. They have different cultures. They have different natural environments. And one of the things that we can use geography to do is to figure out how places might be alike or how places might be different, okay? And that ends up determining a lot about people when they settle there. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to be doing is looking at Native American cultures in the Americas. And we'll see that their development is very closely linked to geography. A little bit later, in a couple of weeks, we'll be looking at how the early colonies in the United States were very closely linked to geography. We're going to eventually look at how slavery and how anti-slavery were both linked to geography, to place. They develop because of different regions, because of the characteristics of places. Okay, so when we're talking about these themes, we're going to start with location. Now, location is the specific place. If you're going to drop a pin on Google Maps, for instance, okay, we can do this in a couple ways. An absolute location is really that pin drop. Okay, now this has to do with longitude and latitude. It's what shows up on your phone for GPS. It is a very specific place. Okay, very specific. We have something called relative location, which is what you would say is close by. Okay, so if you were describing to a tourist down at the Cove, let's say, where Point Arena High School was, you'd say, oh, maybe you go north on Highway 1 and it's by Pirates Cove, right? Because it's something that they see. So it's a landmark. It's some way that you can kind of key someone in to where something is. You know, you might have landmarks that you use with your family. Oh, there's a big tree, or there's the beach by the Wallala River, right? There's a lot of terminology that you might use. The second theme is place. Okay, and this has to do with specific locations with characteristics that make one place different than another, okay? And the things that go within that are things like physical features, okay? So we think about the land, the water, the climate, like temperature, soil, plants, animals. So if we were to talk about Point Arena, right, we would probably talk about redwood trees. We talk about rivers. We talk about fertile soil for agriculture. We talk about a pretty moderate climate, but we'd certainly mention fog, right? Maybe we talk a lot about cows, or maybe even the mountain beaver would come up, the Point Arena mountain beaver. Who knows, okay? But these are the physical features of a place, the things that makes a place noticeably where it is. When I look out my window, I can see up into the mountains. I see all the redwood trees. That's what makes a place, right? Then we have human features, and this one's really interesting because it really changes over time, okay? And so this has to do with cultures and languages and religion, how many people there are, what kinds of people are they, where have they come from? Are they going? Are they staying? What is there to do in a certain place? Okay. Now, I mentioned that we're going to be tying this into Native American cultures, so it's really important here to recognize that when we're talking about Native cultures, they're not a thing of the past. They are very much a thing of the present. Okay. And we'll be talking more about that in coming lessons. Now, one of the other themes is movement. Okay, how people move, how they migrate from country to country, or from state to state, or even within a state. How goods, like products, might be spread throughout a place. Okay, and the spread of ideas. So, people obviously have migrated all throughout history. The earliest settlers on these lands here came from further north, no doubt, and slowly migrated down many thousands of years ago. And there's oftentimes a cause, right? There might be some severe disasters. People might be looking for new hunting grounds. People might be looking for new jobs. People might be fleeing violence, right? They're looking for a better life. And this is a theme that's very consistent throughout history. We look at the transfer of goods, so trade, buying stuff, selling stuff, okay? And this is a big one. In an area like this, we buy in a lot of the things we use, but we also send things away, right? If you go up to Manchester, there's a big dairy there. We're not drinking that milk. That's going out of town. You see all the lumber trucks driving down the road. That's not being used locally. That's being sold elsewhere. You know, incoming are things like groceries, things like hardware you see at the hardware store, right? Those kinds of goods. Then we also have the spread of information, and this is becoming increasingly significant, okay? How ideas are able to spread. This is so important in this digital age because ideas can spread like that, right? It used to be that people would develop a very regionally specific knowledge. That's really changed in recent times. Now, one of the key ways that these things kind of link together is in the idea of human and environmental interaction, okay? The kinds of relationships that people form with the places that they live, okay? So how people rely on natural resources and even why they might settle in a place, okay? So if we're thinking about the natural resources here, right, there's an abundance of wildlife, both animal and plant. There's very suitable soils for agriculture, a very mild climate, right? So the people in a place like this come here for those reasons, and then they also grow to rely on them. Cultures develop around those things. And the last is region. Now, this can be fairly general, right? Like we're in the West, okay? We're in Northern California. We're in the Emerald Triangle, perhaps, right? There's different ways to define our place, our area, based on its characteristics, okay? We could say we're in the Redwood Empire, for instance, right? There's a lot of ways that you could characterize region, okay? When we think about all of these features, especially physical features, they have a huge amount of influence over other things, okay? So languages develop, and I think this is a great example for this area. When we look at the Pomo, it's a tribe that doesn't just speak one language. They have a linguistic root, but there's many sub-languages within that culture, okay? And I think that's really interesting and really illustrates some of these points, right? This is an area kind of marked by isolation, by mountains and valleys and small, pockets on the coast. And so people in those regions develop different cultures, different languages that might have some relation to each other, but that still have clear differences. So today, guys, I'm going to have you do an assignment based on this, okay? And it's Point Arena and the 5 themes of geography. So what I want you to do is make a copy of these slides, and you can just go in and edit them. You can answer the questions by hitting Tab, and it'll create a new bullet point under the old bullet points, okay? So I want you to think about Point Arena specifically, okay? And you're going to answer these questions for the 5 themes of geography. What is the absolute location? What is the relative location? Why did people actually settle here? What are the physical characteristics? What are the human characteristics? And what makes Point Arena different from all the other places in California? We want to think about movement, right? How are we connected to other towns? Like, how do people come through here? Maybe think of the highway. That's a good place to start. How are we linked to other places by the flow of ideas? And how are we linked to other places by the flow of goods? Think about what's made here, what we send out of town, and what we bring into town. Then we're going to look at human-environmental interaction, okay? How do we depend, adapt, and modify the environment here? Okay, so if you're having a hard time with that, maybe start at looking at some of the ranches around and think about if those were naturally places without trees. Okay, good starting point. And then region. Are we in Southern California? Ooh, controversial, huh? So guys, this is going to be due tonight. So go ahead, get started. Thank you.